Hi, we are Alex, Atash, and Utkarsh, and we will be discussing Germany's natural gas trade with Russia.
Hello, this is Utkarsh and I'm gonna present the introduction and past of the trade. So as we know, Russia delivers vast majority of its gas to Europe and through network of pipelines, and as EU's largest economy, nobody imports it more than Germany. Since the war has begun, EU has imposed financial sanctions on Russia except for natural gas, and even the Minister of the Finance mentioned that it is impossible to cut Russia's gas supply. So the question arises that how did Germany become so dependent on something as vital as their energy supply, and why can't they quit? So, to answer this question, we need to jump into the past. In 1969, West Germany adopted a new foreign policy called Ostpolitik, which focused on bringing the two sides together through dialogue and deals. According to the deal, the Soviet Union would supply West Germany with natural gas, and in return, Germany would supply high quality steel to extend their pipelines. It was a major 20-year deal, and this deal was the reason that Germany got stuck into this trade deal. By the end of 90s, Germany was importing 40% of its gas through Russia. Later, when Soviet Union collapsed, Russia's state-owned corporation Gazprom took over the old Soviet gas pipelines. Now, Russia's main pipeline ran through a country which they no longer control. So, to diversify their routes to Germany, Russia began building new ones. So, by 1999, they finished a pipeline that ran through Belarus, and by 2005 they began building the Nord Stream pipeline to reach Germany directly. At the end of 2000, the gas price negotiation between Ukraine and Russia fell apart. A few days later, Russia cut off the gas for Ukraine for 20 days, and cutting the gas through Ukraine was like cutting the gas for almost most of the European nations, as Ukraine was a major transit country for the trade. Even though the gas was not being supplied to any of the European nations, but it fell continuously to Germany through the Nord Stream pipeline. Since the Ukraine-Russian war, Germany has faced a lot of backlash regarding importing natural gas from Russia, and now I will hand it over to Atarsh, who will cover the current natural gas trade crisis in Germany.
Hi, my name is Atash, and today I'm going to briefly cover the current crisis of natural gas trade and the events that took place that led to this moment where Germany is in financial catastrophe. So here we have the world map, and this all began after the Russia-Ukraine war. After the Russians invaded and began pillaging Ukraine back in February, the Germans quickly joined in on the financial sanctions that the rest of the world passed against the Russian regime, and also agreed with the rest of Europe to begin reducing their Russian oil and gas imports down to zero within a few years. In other words, the EU has imposed sanctions that restrict the flow of Russian money, goods, banks, companies, individuals, etc., but natural gas remains untouched. The EU gets quarter of its energy from gas, and half of that is supplied from Russia. As Utkarsh had mentioned previously, this gas is used to power nearly every household in Germany. But with every payment Germany makes to Russia's natural gas company, it's also paid for Russia's war, since Russia uses this cash to buy weapons and rockets to continue waging their war on Ukraine. The Germans couldn't just immediately remove themselves from buying Russia's gas, because doing so would cripple their economy and energy supply and throw them into a recession. Germans had found themselves in a state where they were over-dependent on Russia for natural gas. As the then President of USA Donald Trump mentioned in a conference with NATO Secretary General in 2018, ultimately Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? Now Russians themselves are artificially cutting their own supplies of gas to Germans in order to increase their price while simultaneously applying economic pressure and blackmail. In response to the sanctions imposed by Berlin, Russia slashed the deliveries of gas through the Nord Stream pipeline, the central pipeline, by 100%. So the Nord Stream pipeline goes all the way from here to here, and they slashed the deliveries through this pipeline by 100% until and unless Berlin withdrew from their sanctions. This tactic greatly decreased the supply of gas to Germany, causing gas prices to skyrocket and temporarily increasing Russia's revenue on the limited amount of gas that they continue to sell through other pipelines. Previously, Germany used to import natural gas from Netherlands and Norway, but the days of the Netherlands gas supply is coming to an end. So the Netherlands used to supply gas to Germany from this pipeline, the Groningen pipeline. And the reason the days are coming to an end is because this field causes the shrinking of the topsoil and also resulted in low intensity earthquakes across the region that caused minor damages to buildings and uh, unrest among local residents. So, as a result, the Dutch government began imposing restrictions on gas production within the field, and in 2014 it was decided to gradually phase the field out of production completely by 2025. Moving on, by August, prices of natural gas had more than tripled to 340 euros per megawatts per hour. An author, Caviezel, discovered that reduction of gas usage by 1% reduces GDP by 0.5 to 1%. Even though the figures are not accurate, we can see that there's a relationship between gas price and consumption and consequently Germany's GDP. Restart Energy, an independent energy research company, discovered that an increase in prices of gas led to the closure of many energy-intensive industries. In this table, we have compiled a list of authors' predictions of GDP decline and inflation due to reduction of gas import. Here are the different methods they have used to predict their outcomes, as well as their limitations in their predictions. So they have taken data from the past, developed scenarios to see what would Germany's state be if this deal was struck or if this would have happened, etc. In short, predictions on the positive and negative consequences in future trade deals. So as we see here, we see that there's a relationship between GDP and inflation and the import of gas. So due to the decrease in the imports of gas, that led to the rise in gas prices. This also led to inflation, which caused a reduction in GDP. Since gas is not just used for homes and for your automobiles, but it's also used by factories to produce their goods. And um, since there has been trade issues with Germany and Russia, the government of Russia had requested its citizens to reduce the usage of gas supply, and on top of that, the prices of gas has increased. So it's a walking nightmare for everyone involved, and thus we see a loss in GDP and inflation, and Germany is going into a financial crisis. Moving on, I'll move on the slides to Alex, who will take it on from here.
Unfortunately, every single study which Atash described failed to predict the actual downwards trend of gas prices that followed August's excessive rise, which reached 340.69 euros per megawatt hour, and therefore they all failed to account for the downwards trend. This fall happened as the EU significantly surpassed their target of filling gas storage facilities to 80%, and currently they are 98% full. This meant that the demand for gas decreased when October was unseasonably warm, and so ships carrying natural gas lowered their price in a desperate attempt to unload gas, and the price even plummeted below zero on October 24th to 2022. Prices since then have significantly risen and are currently 126.32 euros per megawatt hour. Despite this, Germany's Federal Network Agency consider the supply to be stable, although they also warn of significantly higher prices and stress the need for a significant cut to the already low gas consumption. requiring an extra 20% loss this winter. Modeled by The Economist is the only up-to-date simulation, as it is a news source and academic papers have a delay due to their peer review process. They have analysed many up-to-date scenarios, with the base scenario resulting in a minimum loss of 17% yearly consumption, and the most severe having a total EU spending on imported gas reaching $1 trillion. Although this model is for the whole EU, as Germany is the EU's largest consumer of natural gas, the proportion of their consumption lost will be comparable, if not larger, than the overall EU's. We can now validate the studies Attar showed previously. For example, The Economist showed that by the end of 2023, the gas reserves will be empty and the price will greatly rise again, just as in August. In addition to this, the inflation of Germany at 10.4% is higher than any study predicted, and the highest it has been since 1951. Putting these two factors of information together, we can infer that the academic studies from earlier in the year have failed to predict Germany's GDP decline. As we failed to have foresight, the next steps to find a conclusive answer to the result of this natural gas crisis lie within the work of future scholars once time has passed. Only then will we truly know the effect of the crisis on the GDP loss. I will now hand over to Utkarsh to conclude our presentation.
To conclude, since Germany is an energy-hungry industrialized economy centered upon manufacturing, Germany has always had one of the world's greatest demand for natural gas and continues to be the third importer of gas in the world. A purely business relationship between these two countries based upon natural gas was almost inevitable, based simply upon economics and geography. As Germany imports vast amount of its gas from less money than anywhere else in the world, simply because it could be shipped so cheaply through pipelines rather than tankers across the ocean. But after the war, since there are trade issues, Germany is looking for alternatives for natural gas. It has made trade deals with countries like Canada and Qatar. It is looking to substitute natural gas with LNG, solar, and wind energy in near future. And that's all from our side. Thank you.